So I often get comments from you all saying that, hey Michael, I've been learning Spanish for 2 weeks and I'm experiencing this. Did you experience this when you were only speaking Spanish for 2 weeks? Or, hey Michael, I've been speaking Spanish for 3 months and I'm noticing that I have to translate in my mind when I hear certain things, or I don't understand what this specific structure means, even though I've studied it. And I'm getting a lot of comments like that, which is a good thing. So as I always say, you all's comments are pretty much what fuel these videos. And so I thought today that it would be a good idea to create a video where I pretty much break down the normal things that you're going to go through, or at least that I went through, that I find to be common amongst a lot of people that are native English speakers that are learning Spanish, things that are normal along this journey of learning Spanish, things that normal, I'm thinking in Spanish, como etapas normales, normal stages that you'll go through that you should not be shocked or surprised to go through. I want to vocalize this so that you don't feel like you're the only one experiencing these things, because I know a lot of the things that I've listed today here, I felt like I was the only one going through that. So I think it would have helped me to know that, okay, me feeling this way is a normal thing. Someone that speaks Spanish better than I do went through these same things earlier on in the journey. So that's what this video is. I don't know what it'll be titled, but that's the intent with this video. So the first thing that I think is normal to happen to all of us, and this can happen for me at least, it happened all the way starting in month 1, all the way up to like a year and a half, a year and 6 months. It is normal to not understand what you're hearing. And I'll give you some examples of like stages of improvement in your listening skills. As you all know, I say this a lot, but most times when I say this, I'm speaking in Spanish, so I'll articulate it here. After about 3 months of speaking Spanish, I could understand maybe 10 to 15 to maybe at the most 20% of what was said. Before that 3-month period, me listening was literally me just trying to hear words that I'd come across before that. There was no general comprehension there. So if you're in between 0 months and 3 months, please don't expect to be understanding sentences and understanding conversations and understanding complex vocabulary within a conversation and unique accents and all that stuff. I think it's normal, from my personal experience, in that 0 to 3 month period, to be able to pretty much just pick out words that you hear, that you recognize, that you've come across before. Other than that, I would not think that it's normal to be able to understand what you're saying, what people are saying deeply, okay? So adding on to this point, again, from that 0 to 3 month period, I would just be listening for words that I can recognize. From 3 to 9 months, okay? A lot of these conversations that you all have seen me have during that period, a lot of times I'm like, oh, en serio, de verdad, realmente, de verdad, but I'm not understanding what people are saying at times, okay? So my point here is just, I don't want you all to look at somebody that's speaking Spanish and think, or somebody that's not a native speaker that is in a conversation, I don't want you to assume that they understand everything that's being said to them. It is normal. Even for me to this day, after learning Spanish at this point for almost 2 years, I understand about 90 to 95% of what people say to me. And even if I don't, that other 5 to 10%, I can understand it through context. But there are still times, even now, where I don't understand everything that I hear from certain Spanish speakers. So that is a normal occurrence. If you're experiencing that, I would let you know that that's 100% normal. So that is number 1. It is okay. It is normal to not understand everything that you hear, everything that you hear from native Spanish speakers. I'd also like to add one more thing to that point, and that is that at this stage that I'm describing, where you don't really understand everything, what I remember distinctly happening, and maybe you all can let me know if you're experiencing the same thing. I remember, let's say I studied or I learned what me doy cuenta means. Like, I learned that means I realize. When I used to listen to conversations, if I heard that, but I hadn't really solidified that definition in my mind, I could hear that in a conversation and my brain would stick to that, and then in my mind I'd be like, me doy cuenta, me doy cuenta. That means to realize, and I'm doing this in the middle of me listening to a conversation. So getting lost in a conversation, I think, is another normal thing. That's a normal process that your brain is going through to try to grasp what you've learned, try to recollect the things that you've learned, to compile them so that you can learn them for your long-term memory, so you can store them, in your long-term memory. I'm getting super distracted again, as always. I like to record these videos outside, but I'm in a full public park, and it just looks weird to me with this camera, but I say that in every video. Here we go. Number 2, a normal feeling, especially for those of you all that are beginners or early intermediate Spanish language learners, it is normal to feel like you want to quit. It is normal to also feel like you're never going to get to the level that you like to get to. I'll give you a perfect example. I remember I thought that a good way to learn Spanish verbs was to buy a big Spanish verb book with all the conjugations and sit there and memorize that. Okay, so I did that. Well, let me tell you this at first. I opened that book initially, looked at it, and I was like, how in the world am I going to learn all this? How? That's almost impossible. But I sat there and tried to study that way, and I remember that experience being super daunting. I felt like there's literally no way. How in the world am I going to be able to speak Spanish? Look at all these thousands of verbs, and all their thousands of conjugations, and all these thousands of rules, and all these thousands of changes, and then you have reflexive verbs, then you have all this stuff. It is completely normal it is completely normal for the language learning process to feel daunting. That is normal. But as you all have seen, I've learned Spanish. There are thousands, countless, millions of people that have done it also. So it will be done. What I like to add here is that our brains, I've learned this, and shout out to Steve Kaufman for really motivating me with this. Our brains are literally designed to learn languages. If you invest the time, you're going to learn the language. You will learn the language. So that's the second thing that I think is normal. It's normal to have doubts about your ability to actually achieve Spanish fluency. I'm going to put air quotes on that. Excuse me, Spanish fluency. But just know that that feeling is a part of the process, and you'll surpass that. You'll overcome that. It's a hill. Once you get to the top of that hill and you really see yourself progressing in and communicating and having conversations, you'll realize, like, okay, those thoughts were foolish. They were fleeting thoughts. The third thing that I think is very normal is what I would describe as the cloudy understanding of something in Spanish. So what I mean by that is this. Excuse me, a voice crack there. What I mean by that is this. I remember when I learned how to say, I'll give you an example. I'm going to give them it. If I want to say in Spanish, I'm going to give them it. Follow me. I'm going to give them it. Or I'm going to give it to them. You can say it that way also. I said it the first way because in Spanish that's how it's ordered. But if I wanted to say that, what I would say is se lo voy a dar. Se lo voy a dar. Se lo voy a dar. And so I remember when I learned that structure, I was like, what? I'm gonna put se in front of lo, and then the verb, and then even after I did the exercises, I completed the exercises accurately when I first learned this. I had no idea how to apply that, okay? So sometimes there are things that we learn in the moment, they're not 100% firm. It may have been, we can think about this in school, right? Let's say in elementary school you never really learned how to add fractions properly, but later on when that concept comes back up, you practice it, and so you get good at it through your secondary exposure to it. And so in Spanish that happens, okay? Everything that you learn for the first time, it's not gonna click like that. You're not gonna automatically get it. So I would say that's a normal feeling. If you learn something, but it's not 100% clear at first and it's kind of cloudy, that is normal. As you expose yourself more to the language, it will make more sense. It will make a lot more sense. So I'm not sure if I started this video off saying that I have 5 things, but the last thing, I'm not sure this is 5, but the last thing that I like to add is that it is normal to forget things that you have already learned, okay? I used to know how to say eyebrows. If I thought about it, if I put a lot of mental energy into it, I could remember, but off the top of my head, I don't remember how to say eyebrows or eyelashes right now. I do, I'm lying, I do know how to say eyebrows, but eyelashes, I've forgotten that, even though I learned it. There are a lot of things in Spanish that I've learned at one point, but if I'm not using them, I'll forget them. What happens is, if you use something a bunch of times, or if it's in your constant vocabulary Rolodex, for lack of a better way of describing that, those are the things that you readily remember. It is completely normal to have to mentally fish, for words, phrases, sayings, verbs even. Well, verbs are words, but anything in Spanish, it's normal to have to fish for that thing if you don't use it a lot. So that's the other thing I like to add here. It is normal to forget words. It's normal to forget words in our native language, English, if they're words that we don't remember all the time. I think the other day I was at Longhorn and I was trying to remember what, you know how in Longhorn or in restaurants or in the South, a lot of times people will take animals, like they hunt them and chop their heads off, and then they have a bust of the head of an animal, of an elk or something like that. I can't remember, even to this day right now, I can't remember the name for that. in English, the process of doing that is like something a postal, or I can't remember. But either way, my point in saying all of that nonsense is that there are words in our own language that we forget if we're not using them often. So the same thing will happen to you in Spanish. Please don't stress over that. I know I get comments like, Michael, what do I do if I'm forgetting words? Are you using those words often? If you're not, it is normal to forget them. If you haven't used them often, if you learned them one time in a random setting or in a random context, or while you were reading some random article or a random book, it's normal to not remember those things. What would be a problem, I would say, is if you forgetting to say words, forgetting how to conjugate words like decir, or basic words that are used in almost every sentence. Other than that, it is normal to forget words. So this video may come out to be short, I'm not sure, but the intent here was just to let you know, to put you at ease, right? If you're feeling like, oh, I'm not improving, or I'm forgetting words, or I learned something in a book but I can't really grasp it truly, these are all normal things that have happened to me. I read every single comment that you all post. A lot of you have posted things that have trends, okay? They're trends and things that we all share, and I just wanted you all to know that those are normal things during the, as you're learning Spanish. So I say this all the time, but I felt like I was rambling this entire video. I'm gonna go home and edit it, and hopefully it came out in a way that it can provide some kind of value to you all. But yeah, hopefully that helps. As I mentioned before, I have a resource coming out that can help also with this, but tranquilos. Let's all relax. We're gonna be fine. We're gonna learn Spanish. And yeah, so hopefully this video helped. I know I wasn't my best self here, but hopefully it helped. Ciao.